Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working in E-Commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath from Caravan Digital. We're a digital marketing agency for direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands, and we help with paid search, paid social, and email automation. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Yash Chavan, who has a tool that helps with influencer marketing called Saral. Yash, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Egan. Happy to chat.
Right on. We have not talked influencer marketing on What's Working in e-commerce, so I'm really excited to have you on to speak about this. Before we get into, some of the specifics and dive in, why should direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands be looking at influencer marketing?
Yeah, I think there are many reasons, and there are many fancy reasons that I could give you in terms of here's the ROI, or here's why you should do it. All other brands are doing it. That's why you should do it. But for me, I like to again think from first principles or the fundamentals. So I think word of mouth is the supreme channel of growth. I'm a word of mouth supremacist. So if word of mouth works, and it's always worked, and that was the only marketing channel that ever even existed before all this fancy technology happened. Then the way I see influencer marketing, or I prefer to call it creator driven growth, is just word of mouth at scale. So instead of one customer talking to like 2, 3, or 5 people, it's one customer or one ambassador or one creator. They're talking to tens of thousands of people. So for me, it's just word of mouth at scale. It just makes sense in my head why you would do it. And I think that's one of the primary reasons why any brand should at least have some section of their time, their budget allocated to this channel. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. In the United States, there's kind of a history of Nike working with Michael Jordan, and so kind of going with celebrities and athletes and sort of getting the association of, hey, we like this person, we trust them, they're an authority, but particularly we like them. And so to me, I almost think of it comes from like celebrity endorsements, but the way you talk about it makes it sound more like, no, it's more like your friends and family recommend a product and you trust them. Is that how you think about it?
That's correct, which is also why I mentioned that I don't like calling it influencer marketing, because the term quote unquote in quotes influencer has been kind of associated with like the girl in the bikini at the beach or the guy in the six pack kind of awkwardly posing with your product. And that, I would say, it used to work like maybe 5 years ago, but right now customers see through that nonsense. So they want real authentic shout out. So it does not really matter how many followers that person has, as long as they are authentic and real and they share even like some negative aspects of your product in the promotion. That actually works even better. So yeah, it's moving from that it was like celebrities and athletes, and it moved to like maybe like TV show celebrities, and moved down to influencers on social media. Now it's really down to who's the most authentic creator, who's like really an expert about about the topic. And yeah, it's just boiled down to that. So yeah, it's just authenticity.
Okay. And say it again, what's the alternative to influencer marketing? What do you like to call it?
I call it creator driven growth, creator led growth. I think when a brand kind of reframes, words matter a lot. So when you say influencer, you think of a particular person, but when you say creator, the focus kind of shifts. The mental frame that you're looking at it with shifts into how creative they are, or how, what's the kind of content that they're creating. So look at them as a creator, not as an influencer. And then it's also not really marketing. I like to call it growth. So creator driven growth.
That's great. And so this is related to word of mouth marketing, which is the best and cheapest historically. How does a brand get started with this? How do they look for creators that can help them grow?
Yeah, so one of the best ways to get started is really just like send out an email to your email list and post an Instagram story saying, hey, we're building this influencer program, or we're looking for creators to work with. Are you interested? Just reply to this message, or reply to this email, or fill out this Google form. And then that's pretty much the lowest hanging fruit ever that most brands skip, because they want to go after like the blue check mark, or they want to go after that influencer that they've been like the founder or the marketer at the brand has been following. But you need to kind of stop that, just resist that urge for a bit, and then reach out to your customers and see which one, because that even if you have like say 1,000 customers, maybe 1 or 2 of them have like a following of 10,000 on Instagram, and that'll get the ball rolling for you. That's one way to get started. Do that, and that's like easy. Probably takes half an hour to send out an email and post a story. Once you've done that and you've gotten the ball rolling, that's when you should look at maybe more cold approaches to influencers, where you can find influencers who are posting content about your niche, your industry, and then DM them, send them an email, stuff like that. So yeah.
Gosh, I'm learning so much already from talking with you about this. So this is a lot of counterintuitive stuff that I think people don't think of. So don't go right on Instagram and look for influencers or, whoever in your space. Hit your email list first, and you're talking to your customers and you're asking them if they want to post a story or if they have followers, or how do you think about that? What does that email look like?
Yeah, that email, simple email. Just say, hey, we're building this. Let's call it an ambassador. It's good to start with what I call an ambassador program. That's kind of like a program where you give them affiliate commissions, but you also give them some extra benefits, like say in-store credits, or you promote them on your social media. It's more deeper than just a cold affiliate relationships. So call it an ambassador program. Say, hey, we're launching this ambassador program. If you like our products, here's a Google form to fill out. And if you have you can have a threshold like, hey, do you have more than 1,000 followers on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube? We want to work with you. And then link to the form and see the applications that come in, and then work with them over email and see where it goes. But yeah, keep things simple, nothing fancy to start. I think a lot of brands just overthink the strategy so much that they just don't take action. But it's just a simple email that you send out and see where it takes you.
Wow, this is so brilliant. So does each influencer or ambassador then, do they get a promo code? Is there some way to do the tracking so that they get credit for the sales they get?
Correct. Yeah. The best way, again, don't think of, I'm coming from someone who's building software in this space. Don't think of signing up for software upfront. Don't even consider that. Just create discount codes in your Shopify or whatever platform you're using and send it to them. So you can easily manage 15 or 20 discount codes and in an Excel sheet and get it done that way. So yeah, it incentivizes them to post because they get affiliate commissions. It also incentivizes their audience to buy from you because you're giving their audience a discount code to purchase. So yeah.
Wow, this is wonderful. I can see another virtue to this as well, or another advantage, which is oftentimes when someone is pitching an influencer or a creator, it's sort of an upfront cost. It may not be on an affiliate basis, versus when you keep it affiliate, you only pay when there's sales. You have variable costs, but not upfront fixed costs. So it seems like that'd be a huge advantage.
Exactly. So one of the reasons why, and I've spoken to brands that have lost money on influencers, and then they're talking to me saying, hey, we just lost money on this. And resoundingly, pretty much 99 out of 100 times, it's always like they did what I call the transaction focused model of influencers, where they're like, hey, we want to pay you $500, post about us these many times, and do a TikTok post about us. That never works out because it's kind of like you're just paying for it. There's nothing deeper behind it. So especially when you're doing an ambassador deal, for someone to say yes to that, they already have to have a certain buy-in to your brand story or mission. They must believe in your product, which is also why you start with your customers first, because they already satisfy all those criteria, because they've given you money. You don't have to give them money, right? They've given you their money. They've bought your product. So customers are the best place to start. And yeah, doing that ambassador deals is the best way to get started. Never, ever, ever start with pay per post deals unless you have a big bank account.
Wow, this is a huge strategic insight already. I'm loving this. This might be in the weeds, but are you then offering cash or Amazon gift cards or credit to a future purchase? Kind of what do those rewards look like for those, ambassador affiliates?
Yeah, you can just PayPal them. So if you can decide based on hey, it all depends on the margins that you have as a brand. It's different for each brand, but hey, we'll give usually anywhere between 10 to 25%, around that range is accepted. Don't really go below 10 in terms of commissions. But yeah, let's say we'll give you 15% commissions for the sales you drive, and at the end of the month, we'll pay you out. So yeah, just track how many sales a certain discount code got and send them PayPal them the money or Venmo them the money. You don't need a fancy tool or anything of that sort to get this done. You can easily manage it using a Google Sheet or using a simple software tracker, CRM, something like that. So yeah.
All right. Keep it simple, minimum viable product. I love it, Yash. Let's say a brand has done this. They've seen great success with their ambassador affiliate program and they're ready to find more creators. What's that next step look like?
Yeah. Next step is basically go cold and find influencers that are creating content around your niche. So don't go after the big celebrities in your space. Don't even think of that. What you should do is you should align yourself with creators who are already kind of creating content about your niche. So let's take an example here. Let's say you're a let's say you're a baby nutrition company, right? So in that case, you should just simply, instead of trying to convince random influencers to promote you, you should just search on Instagram or YouTube for like hashtag baby nutrition or hashtag toddler mom. So you already have these like what are called momfluencers who are already creating content about what their baby is doing every single day, and you just plug in your brand in their content, and it's just a natural integration as opposed to it being a quote unquote, another word that I hate, product placement. Don't do that. Just integrate it naturally in their content. So what you want to do is you just want to go to TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and search for related keywords. Find like maybe 50 creators who you really like who are creating the content that you want to be plugged in, and then send them an email campaign saying, hey, we want to work with you. How can we work together? So yeah.
And keep those on a per sale affiliate basis as well. Is that your recommendation?
Yeah, to start with, I would recommend that, but again, it depends on how big the creator is. Again, I would recommend go small, like less than 25K followers is a good. You got to build it from the bottom up instead of going from top down. A lot of brands think that, oh, if I get the big one, then the smaller ones would say yes, but just getting that big one is so hard that it never happens. So you gotta start small and start with your customers, then go with like 10K followers, 20K followers, and then build up from there. So yeah, it's usually easy to convince like someone with 10K, 15K followers to work on a affiliate only or an ambassador basis, because they also get other perks. So you might give them store credits, and especially if they're already aligned with your brand. So let's say, again, let's take the same. You're a baby nutrition product and you're reaching out to a momfluencer who has a baby. She anyway might want to try out your product. So if you're giving her products for free and you're giving her affiliate commissions, all she has to do is like post a story a week or something like that. Then it becomes a no-brainer for her to also work with you. So yeah.
Is there a minimum number of followers or engagement that we should look for to say it's not even worth it below this threshold?
Yeah, ideally, like you should go above 5K because then you have at least a decent amount of reach when you're like doing the cold thing. But if you're working with the first step, like the customer stuff, even if your customers have like 1,000, 2,000 followers, that's completely okay. You gotta get the ball rolling. But when you're doing cold, I would say don't go like below 5K, or else you'll just, I mean, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but then you just won't see enough traction as fast as you want to really continue investing in the channel. So yeah, 5K is bare minimum, but I'd recommend like go higher, like 7K, 10K, around that range is usually good. You want to build that fat tail of what I call nano influencers, so anyone with less than 20K followers, and then you eventually go larger and larger as you work on your program.
That's great. I've never heard nano influencer. I've heard micro influencer. Is nano even smaller than that?
Nano is even smaller than that, yeah. So my again, like the estimates kind of differ, but I like to say nano influencers anywhere like between 3K to 20K is nano, 20K to 100K is micro, and then anything bigger than that it is like mega, celebrity, and so on. So yeah.
So with these early ones, they've got a promo code. They've got an affiliate deal with you. Tell me a little bit of what does that content look like? What does that Instagram story or TikTok video look like? Like, tell us a little bit, paint the picture for us of what is this content they create for you?
Ask them to make it as authentic as possible. So there's this concept of like giving them creative briefs or giving them talking points, another word that I hate. So don't, because they are creators, they know what works on these social media platforms. They know what hooks to add, how to, like what caption to write. They know it best. So as long, your only job as a brand is to get buy-in from the creator about your brand. If you sell them on your brand mission, if you sell them on why your product is useful, if you create the right incentive structure, that's it. Don't worry about creating the content or giving it, like directing it for them or anything. They are creators, they know what works best. Just leave it to them. That's the strategy, because it's as good as you're getting like high level creatives for essentially just for cost of goods sold, right? So yeah, if you're doing like seeding and gifting campaigns and you give them affiliate commissions later on, that's fine. But then you don't have any upfront cost for it, as opposed to the alternative, which is like get a studio, hire a creative director, write scripts, and all of that. So these creators, they know what works, they do it for you. So I don't tend to give any direction to creators at all, and it turns out well.
Okay. So it may not even be affiliate promo code at this point. It may be free product or samples or something like that in exchange.
Yeah, you could. So there's different ways to do it. So there's something called a seeding campaign, where what you do is you seed creators with with like free products and see what they think. And if they like it, then they tend to usually post or like, hey, especially if it's a small creator like someone with 10K followers, they're not a influencer. They're not like doing this full time. They have like a day job. They're just like a normal person. They're like you and me, but with like 10,000 followers. So if someone sends you a free bundle of like a package that's exactly relevant to what you love, then you're like, oh yeah, hey, this brand sent me this free product. Here's this. They just post a quick story about you, and you like in some cases you don't even give them the affiliate commission or anything at the early stage. Once they post, then you can get them on, and then you can create like a deeper relationship.
That's great. Do you think it's fair game to use this content as user generated content, UGC, and paid social ads?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the ways that I'm seeing brands use this content is they just get usage rights from creators, because like we all know Facebook ads is not working as good as it did like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So, but what does work well, and you know this better than me, because your primary work at Caravan is just like high volume creative testing, right? And the best way to get this high volume creative is to work with creators and get the content made from them. And you can pay for usage rights sometimes if it's a smaller creator. I think it's fair to really pay them for usage rights, but if it's a smaller creator, sometimes they're just fine getting that exposure, especially if you're running like whitelisted ads that go through their own account, and people, they get followers through there as well. So yeah, it depends, but it totally works to get this. It's also more authentic than just an ad or any like fancy image that a graphic design firm would create for you. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip in there too. Some people will be familiar with that, some won't. So I just want to spell it out. You're saying with that whitelisted content, the ad may run through, let's say it's their business Facebook page. It's your pixel, it's your ad account. You're paying for the ad, but you're basically boosting that creative or using that creative, and it runs on their page. So it looks like a third party is talking about your product, and that can be really powerful.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, Yash, this is just gold already. What is the next step? We've done the nano influencers. How do we step up? What's the next step here?
Yeah, so once you've got like roughly at this stage, you should be at around 50 to 75 creators or 100, depending on how much volume you do. And at that point, your job is to sustain your nano influencer fat tail and then go take big swings. I call this again, another value bomb here. I call this the barbell strategy. So it's like you have you've got a bunch of small weights stacked up here, and then you've got a bunch of like huge plates on another end. So the small plates are the hundreds of nano influencers you're working with, and the big plates are maybe eventually you'll reach out to the mega influencers, the celebrities, to promote you, and those are like the big dogs that you've got on the other end of the barbell. So I actually don't encourage working with the kind of micro sized influencers, anywhere between like 100K to 300K. It's usually like they charge more than required, and it's just not enough return. So you want to work with the nano ones, and you want to work with the mega ones. So you kind of distribute your risk that way. You even it out on both ends of the barbell. So yeah, from that stage, it's just like maintain all those relationships, keep sending more emails to more influencers and get them to become ambassadors for your brand, and then start reaching out to the mega influencers now, after you've got that fat tail built up, they're already generating revenue. Now you can take the big swing, and now you can afford to even maybe pay the bigger influencer to post about you or become your ambassador. So yeah.
That's great. Have you read Nassim Taleb's The Black Swan? Do you know that book?
That's where the barbell strategy comes from.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. For anybody watching this who isn't familiar, check that book out. It's one of my favorite nonfiction books. Most people say when you invest, you do some mix of stocks and bonds. It's 50-50, 75-25, whatever that is. And he sort of says, no, maybe you want a barbell approach where you have 90% bonds or something and 10% really risky things that could go to zero or it could go to 10x. So it's pretty interesting. So I like how you've applied that to this field. That's awesome. sort of meta, concept or analysis of this that I'm curious about is one of the reasons we're doing this. Presumably, like you said, Facebook hasn't worked the same since the iOS update. Presumably, we're getting cheaper CPMs, cost per thousand views, and even cheaper, cost per click or cost per landing page visits to our site. Is that the broader idea of this is cheaper than direct advertising through the platforms?
You nailed it exactly. So a lot of brands talk about the ROI of influencer marketing, and if you're doing that in 2022 or 2023, you're just looking at it extremely myopically. You're just like focused, siloed into the influencer channel. What you should instead look at is how is this helping everything else? So if you've got creators creating content for you and posting about you, that's already helping you get some conversions. But you can reuse that asset and you can run it as a Facebook ad, run it as a TikTok ads, use it as social proof on your product page, right? You can do so much with that content. It's just about how creative you are. So yeah, look at creative creator driven growth more holistically, and instead of just looking at it, okay, they posted about us, how many sales did it get? Look at it more broadly and think, okay, what can I do with that creative to really, help fuel my other channels and bring my cost per acquisition down on everywhere else. So yeah.
It sounds like this is multiple legs of the stool. This is getting you impressions, this is getting you visits, this is getting you purchases, but it's also getting you content that can then be used with paid social and even on your site and elsewhere. So it's a broader sort of social proof program that has many virtues. That's excellent. I'm curious, Yash, you can lay out kind of the next stages for us. And also, at what point are we paying upfront rather than on an affiliate basis? Like, talk to us kind of the broader strategy. How does it evolve? I can imagine if you have 50 to 100, influencers or co-creators, like that's quite a big program. That sounds like a big program to me. But how do you look at this? How do you measure it? How do you take it to the next level? Paint the picture for us.
Yeah, which is why I recommend starting with ambassadors, because once you have that kind of math figured out, like, okay, we've got a creator with say 25K followers, they post about it these many times a month organically, and they generate these many sales. At that point, you can just go to other creators in the similar niche with the same number of followers and say, hey, if you don't want to work for affiliate commissions, that's fine. Based on our math, this is how much I can pay you and get the same. So whatever you're paying in affiliate commissions, you just pay that up front and you get the same return. So the ambassador strategy is also a good way to generate that, get that data, and figure out the math. So yeah, once you've got that, then it makes more sense to start paying per post. Yeah. I was saying never ever do the pay per post deal. Just do like a work with them on the maybe a more holistic basis, because one post is not going to give you the return that you think it would. So make it like a multi-post deal or a multi-month deal where they post about you on certain times and these many reels, these many stories, these many TikToks, and that'll really help get you the return that you want. So yeah.
That's interesting. That gets into the repetition, almost like with an ad. You have your frequency. How many times did people see your Instagram ad? Same idea. If people follow this creator, they need to see your product a couple times in there. One post isn't going to do it. That's a great point. Is there some element of tracking? You're making sure the influencer or the creator is actually posting the content and making good on that many posts per month?
Yeah, so there are tools that do that. Initially, you can do it manually because you maybe have like 10 or 20 creators. But yeah, even in the tool that we're building, Saral, we've got a performance tracking bit where you can track, you can just put in the influencer's name, you can put in the hashtags that they use, or whenever they tag you, we detect it and we pull that content into our solution. So you can just track it that way. So yeah, there's many ways to do it. Initially, don't use software, just do it manually, but as it gets harder and harder to do, then you can move on to using a software solution and tracking it automatically. But yeah,
that sounds really handy to just have software do it automatically. That's really cool. I want to get to that, but there's one piece in there that I'm so curious about, is like when you switch from you're paying per sale to I'm paying up front, and you say, okay, we know we can get the same results. Is that based on how many followers they have? Is that based on the engagement they have? How do you know you're going to see similar results as you're, stepping up to bigger and bigger influencers or creators?
yeah, it's just mostly based on their engagement rate, not necessarily follower count. So if a creator at 100k has a extremely low engagement rate, it does not make sense to pay them four times as much as you'd pay a 25k person. But yeah, just look at their engagement rate, which basically you can calculate reach, and there are metrics that you can look at to figure out how many likes you'd get or how many views a particular reel would get if they post about you. And then based on that, you can reverse engineer your CPMs and figure out, okay, this makes sense to pay. So yeah.
Yash, speaking of, the CPC and the CPMs that, people see in advertising versus what they see in, creator-led growth or influencer marketing, what kind of results, do clients see? What can they expect if we're used to maybe a 2.5 ROAS on Facebook or a 3 or 4 ROAS on Facebook if they're really got things dialed in? What sort of return and how do they think about the results they see with influencer marketing or creator-led growth?
Yeah, usually we've seen like 3x to 6x ROI, so you can call it 3 to 6 ROAS. There are some online studies that claim like 8x or 11x. I've personally never seen that, but yeah, if you really, again, it's about dialing it in, right? So if you're just like normally doing it, there's some inefficiencies, you might get 3 to 6x. If you really dial it in, you might as well see 8x. But on that ROI thing, since you asked that, I really don't like to think about it in terms of just purely ROI, because I think I recall the Gary Vee quote. I don't know if you know this, but he famously said, "What's the ROI of your mother?" Right? So you cannot you cannot attribute it by saying, "Oh, when I was a 5-year old and I really wanted that piece of ice cream, but my mom said, hey, no, you don't get that until tomorrow when you do your homework." You cannot, at 40 years of age, you cannot say, oh, because my mom did that, I'm now a disciplined person. There's no way to really like attribute it. But then, of course, like having your mom around when you were a kid really helped you as, grow into the person that you are. So there is obviously an ROI, right? But you can't really say what's the ROI of your mother. So that's how I like to think of influencers. Like you can't really, it's kind of silly to sit around and say, was it 5x or was it 5.5x? That's a bit of a silly conversation for me. What I instead like to do is look at it in terms of the MER metric, marketing efficiency ratio. So what brands must do is they should look at the last quarter. They see, okay, we spent this much, we spent X on marketing and we got 3X in sales. This quarter, we did influencer marketing as an additional channel. We again spent X on that, and then we've got 4X in sales. So now that's your efficiency. Like, okay, you've got this much additional in sales. So that's how I like to look at it. Again, it's more holistic because you can't really attribute in terms of, okay, we got this TikTok creative done, and this creator, she posted it on her TikTok feed. She also posted it on her Instagram feed, but then we also reused it as a Facebook ad. So it just becomes difficult to attribute it. So just look at it in terms of efficiency. Like think about when you didn't do influencer marketing, what was the overall return on marketing? And then with influencers, what was the overall return on marketing? And then see if there's ROI.
That's awesome. So much gold here today. Thank you so much for sharing this. Tell us a bit about the tool you guys are developing at Saral. Who's that a good fit for? When should they start to consider it? And kind of what does it do for them?
Yeah, like I say, and this goes against like my sales pitch, is just like don't start don't start with a tool. Just start with Google Sheets and see where it takes you. First, like validate the channel. And yeah, once you've got like 10, 20 creators on a Google Sheet, you'll see the pain. You'll find that it's difficult to track all your relationships, because at the end of the day, it's not so much about volume, it's mostly about relationships. So if you've got like 100 creators who are consistently promoting you because they really love your brand, you don't even need the mega influencer. You don't need anything else. You just need that consistency going. You need like those 100 true fans that are really promoting you every single month, and that's all you need. So yeah, what we do is we basically enable that relationship. So with Saral, you can come in, you can, like I said, once you go to that cold stage from the customers to cold outreach, you can use our tool to find these creators. You can search for keywords on YouTube. You can click on we've got this Chrome extension. You can click on the extension, save everyone to a list, and then we've got a cold email tool built in, so you don't have to sign up for additional tools. You can send them personalized cold emails at en masse. And then we've got a CRM, so you can track everything. We've got a performance tracking, so you can track your discount codes, create trackable links, a lot of features like that. So yeah, and it's mostly a fit for, so there's a lot of tools in this space that cost like 20K a month, sorry, 20K a year, 2K a month, something like that. So yeah, and a smaller brand who's like, say, just starting out, or even if they have like 500K to a million in revenue, they can't really afford that big of a bet. So we are priced extremely affordably at just like $150 a month, and it's a 7-day free trial. So you can just go to you don't even have to put your card. You can just go to the website, getsaral.com, sign up and start using it, start finding creators, reaching out and see where it takes you.
That's awesome. I'm looking at the site here. So it's getsaral, GETSARAL.com. Looks like there's an academy and you can sign up for a newsletter to join the No BS Influencer Marketing newsletter. So I encourage everyone to do that. Yash, is there anywhere else that people should find you and follow you and learn more?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So just search for my name, Yash Chavan, on LinkedIn, and you'll find me posting about influencer marketing, all the cutting edge stuff that we are doing with brands every single day. And yeah, find me there, send me a hi, say you came in from Egan's podcast, and I'd love to chat.
Right on. Sounds good. Yash, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Awesome. Thanks, Egan.